is an advantage for advancement in Krishna consciousness, such as great learning and beauty and exalted ancestry for the service of Lord Krishna. Then such assets become glorious. In other words, unless one is Krishna conscious, all his material possessions are zero. Yeah? But when this zero is by the side of the Supreme One, it once increases in value to 10. Okay? Unless situated by the side of the Supreme One, zero is always a zero. One may add 100 zeros, but the value will remain zero. Unless one's material assets are used in Krishna consciousness, they may play havoc and degrade the possessor. Yep. Okay. So any questions or comments? Anybody have any experiences of this? Know any examples of people who had great material assets, caused them problems, or they were able to use it for Krishna? In ISKCON, anybody using their material assets for Krishna? Huh? Yeah, Ambarish does. Yeah. I forgot how much money he makes a day. Something like $500 a day or something. $1,000 a day. More than that. It's more than that. I think it's more than $1,000 a day is his income. Like that. That maybe like $5,000 a day. Yeah, yeah. And I had some association with him, and he said it actually was a curse, because all this money is there, and he said he had to work every day to see the money was being engaged in Krishna's service, and he was funding different projects, and he had to see the reports and see how it was being used, and he felt peaceful. If not, the money would start to talk to him. Ambarish, what is it? You've been working hard. You deserve a vacation. And just yesterday, that travel agent called you up, and you could take your family for like a 10-day cruise in the Bahamas, like that and stuff, and get some fresh air and rest and relax and be rejuvenated for more service. Yeah, okay. Ambarish, what is it? Remember your cousin's nephew who needs money for surgery for cancer? Oh, yeah. So, if you win the lottery, you'll discover all your family tree. Everybody who has any kind of relationship will call to you. Yeah. And then you can't walk around safely anymore, right? If you were worth $5 million or $50 million, right? You think your life would be peaceful? No, your parents get an envelope with your ear in it, saying unless you want some more of these things, give us $1 million right away. It's just terrible. It's just unbelievable. Everybody was approaching you smiling, but you just think, very difficult. Chanika Pandit says, the king has no friends, right? Anybody who thinks he's a friend of the king is a fool. You can translate that into ISKCON talk. The temple president has no friends. Anybody who thinks he's a friend of the temple president is a fool. Yeah? As soon as you take this title, everybody looks at you in terms of what they can get from you, even your own wife. Prabhu, my friend's husband is, yeah. It's a natural reaction against Shiva. Shiva will be influenced by the material nature. Okay. If you're a devotee, okay, you understand what's going on and you can use it. You can use it properly. You can understand if I'm going to become president, I'm going to have to become neutral to everybody. And we'll be able to have friends and say, yeah, it's good, you're right, you should have that and this and that. Because no, now I've got this position, I have to be neutral even to my best friends and so on. Yeah. So this is the material nature. Yeah. When we use it for Krishna, okay. It may not come to the point where it's blissful, but at least it won't contaminate us. And we'll see that I'm liberated, I'm using these things, and it's good. And by doing this, eventually I'll develop some kind of bhava, actually penetrate enough where using the wealth and the beauty and all these things are great. Any other examples? Any examples of devotees who became totally puffed up by their position? Wealth, prestige, good looks, beauty, the mirror. Mirror, mirror on the wall. Who's the most beautiful in the temple hall? It's you. Yes, Snow White. Snow White. Coffee brown. Yes. One of my friends, Yagnavalkyadas, he was a brahmachari, in the beginning of ISKCON in Boston. And there was nobody to lead Mangal Arati. He said, okay, I'll lead it and stuff. He started chanting, he told me this and that, Then he was getting really good kirtan, while he was leading a really enthusiastic kirtan. And he said he thought, wow, I bet all the brahmacharinis are looking at me. His mind was thinking, wow, the brahmacharinis are probably all looking at me, and what a great kirtan I'm leading, So he kind of looked over, and all the brahmacharinis were kind of like this. He looked down, and his dhoti had fallen off. Right? so he grabbed it and ran out, cursing Krishna. You rascal Krishna. So Indra says that, right? Indra was becoming puffed up by being the Indra, king of the gods and stuff. And so Krishna, chastised him. So in his prayers, Indra says, this is what happens, is that, you accept everybody's service, but when somebody becomes a little proud, you find some way to cut down their pride without hurting them. So he felt, in some ways it was kind of funny, and stuff, he was, okay, brahmachari, whatever, okay. So Krishna does that. He'll find different ways that if we're a little bit sensitive, okay, Krishna did that, yeah, it's a message, okay, calm down, you got this money, but hey, other people, also have money or something. What are you doing with it? Yeah, and so on. Yeah, yes. An example is I was in Mayapur temple, and everybody's chanting. Maybe like 1,000 people chanting japa or something. Maybe 600. And I looked up, and the most beautiful woman I've ever seen was walking across the front of the temple room, and I was looking at her. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna. Then Krishna says, your intelligence says, hey, fella, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. No. So that was the inauguration of this festival they had for the 500th anniversary of Lord Chaitanya's sannyas. They had a whole traveling like that. And she was Miss Universe India? Like that was who she was. Like the supreme personality of womanhood. She was like Miss Universe India. Okay, and she was there with some other senators, what do you call them, like Lok Sabha people, for the inauguration like that. This is kind of the extreme example of Yukta Vairagya, that Miss Universe India has come to inaugurate the sannyas anniversary of Lord Chaitanya. Who else? Yeah. But it was other people too. But she was, and she said, she gave a nice speech, and other people too. And she said that when she was a small girl, her grandmother used to take her to all these pilgrimage places and always read stories to her about Krishna Leela and all these things, And so then she's growing up, and then she won Miss something gown or something like her village beauty competition. She won it like that, maybe 12 years old, 13 years old. Then she won the sub-district competition. Then she won the district competition, and then she thought, hey, maybe I can go all the way. Okay, yeah. And she did. She went up, and I guess, they come down to maybe like the final 7 girls out of all of India, and the lights are going like this and that, and everybody, and it is you! And the other 6 girls all step back and smile like that. Congratulations. And you're the lucky one, you deserve this. Yeah. And so then she said, it was thrilling, I won. But then they stuffed this bunch of roses in her thing, and they hadn't cut the thorns off. So she's being poked in the breast by these roses like that, and all these lights are burning in her face, and she has to go on smiling like that, like that. And she said the thrill lasted for even less than 1 minute. It was like this thing and then one thing after another. But she said exactly this, that I can use this now, for good causes. I can go places and draw attention to things like this. And so I use it like that and so on. So she had this background as a devotee, and she saw what it was worth and so on. So she became influenced, for a little bit. Lord Shiva becomes influenced. We may become influenced. One time in a temple in San Francisco, which used to be a mortuary, the second story in the back, where we cut the subji up, it was a room like like this, was kind of tilted, and there was a hole in the bottom, so that was where they drained the blood out and, embalmed the corpses and stuff through cutting vegetables. So we had this place had mice. So we had this like a place with like a metal, called this screen type stuff to keep the mice out, to keep the vegetables there. But one mouse had gotten in like that. So Jayananda, who was this big self-realized guy, was trying to catch the mouse, and all of a sudden he goes, ah! It's like that. He said, he ran across my foot, so on, So yeah, even he was, being influenced. So it's not unusual, to be influenced by the material world. Be in anger and happiness and distress and pride. It's not unusual, especially if we're going into it for Sankirtan purposes. If we're not completely purified, yeah. And if we are very purified, but then we go with Sankirtan, it's not unusual to be disturbed when you're on Sankirtan by people spitting on you or insulting you. Yeah. Prabhupada would come back from his preaching activities, and the neighbors would say, he would come back and he had very little results, and he would come back and sit down, and they'd watch him across in the balcony. He would sit there like this, Then after some time, he would go back and put his intelligence back in order. Foundation is still solid. And he would get up and he would take a bath and cook prasad and have some kirtan and stuff like that and so on. So he saw many times Prabhupada would come back he said when he was in New York, that almost every few days I would go down and look at the schedules on the boats and see which boats were departing and thinking, okay, I'll try a little bit longer and so on. So it's a very, very natural, But the more we build our foundation in Krishna consciousness, that doesn't become disturbed. Madhavendra Puri, he got a pot of milk from Gopal, right? He was waiting for this cowherd boy to come back so he could give him his pot. And he finally fell asleep, and so on. But he didn't go into the mode of ignorance, right? His body went to sleep, his mind went to sleep, but his intelligence didn't go completely to sleep. It's like the operating system in a computer, right? How many engineers are software engineers, right? You got the operating system, right? So part of the CPU becomes occupied by the input-output apparatus. Part of it becomes operated by this math processor. But a part of it, the operating system is always hanging out there somewhere, right? Because without that, we're in a lot of trouble, so on. Yeah. So that's what happens, is that a mode of ignorance can enter in. The body goes to sleep. The mind goes to sleep. Intelligence goes to sleep, but a little bit of it is always Krishna conscious. The basis is there. So when Prabhupada woke up, it wasn't like, where am I? What's going on? Where's the clock? Blah, 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 blah. No, he was immediately just, go back to work where he was precisely before, like that, and so on. Yeah. So nice examples of the external energy and Lord Shiva. Yeah. And of course, what's sati? Sati is what? Sati is really wants to go to the house. She really wants to go see the party. No, not really. Yeah, she wants, because she's the mother of the universe, and Daksha is her son, so she wants to go and make sure things are being carried on properly like that. So she doesn't. In one aspect, she remembers who she is, but the other aspect, she's acting out this whole thing of material world and acting like an attached young girl and agitating her husband's mind and so on. Yeah? Yep. Happens with you? No? Your wife agitates your mind? But at the same time, everybody knows, even the family affairs, everybody knows I'm acting like a woman, but I know I'm not identifying, I'm like a man. Let's let it run. Let's see. This is our grihastha ashram. Okay, we got to do this. Okay, let's let it run and see what happens. Okay, and Susie's not going to go to the big dance with Billy. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So Prabhupada ki jai. So any questions or comments here? Yes. Yes, sir. Yeah.
Maharaj, would you like to tell us how you met ISKCON and where you met Prabhupada?
Oh my God. Okay. I met Prabhupada through his books. So many people, again, I made this statement that Prabhupada said, I will live forever. Prabhupada is personally present in his books. So I was at the University of California, Davis, during Whole Earth Day, and it was actually inaugurated there. And one devotee, Brahmacharya, maybe in Buddhimanta, was all in Dhoti and Kirtan selling books, And he was trying to sell me a book and sales techniques. And I was doing some kind of yoga then where you're supposed to blank your mind, okay, so I was like, I'm going to blank my mind. And he was talking. And he wanted, it was a big Krishna book, when it was 2 volumes, like that. He wanted $10. It was like 1972, 82, 92, 2002, 2012. Maybe it would be like $40 now. How much is a big Krishna book now? It's expensive, right? Yeah. It's not $10. Hopefully not. Yeah? Wow, our books haven't increased with the, yeah.
The printing is different, though.
Yeah, these are the big ones. The big ones, yeah. So anyway, it was a fair amount of money, And I was married then. My wife was sitting there like glowering at me like, you're going to waste our money on more of these stupid yoga stuff, things like that, and so on. It was very much like, and so I really had to make this choice between Maya, and Krishna. And it wasn't like gratification, but when I got home, I knew I would get the, criticism. It really was a choice. I had to make the choice. And stuff. And I was really realizing what he was saying was true and everything else. So finally, okay, I'll do it, and bought the book, And then I read it for 1 year. And I mentioned this before, that, well, one thing is that every philosophy I come in contact with, Prabhupada talked about them all, put them all in perspective and their advantages and disadvantages, and really established that monotheism is the most sane, practical, intelligent process like that. Okay. The other thing that really impressed me, the pictures impressed me too. Jadharani's art, the original Krishna books, it was very kind of primitive, but it was just like intense. It was like some kind of surreal, thing. The third thing was, I mentioned this, at some point I was sitting there on the porch. I still remember sitting on the porch of this house where we were sharing with other college students. And suddenly it just hit me, because I'd read a lot of science fiction, Clifford, Simon, Heinlein, all these really just incredible things and so on. And Prabhupada was describing the Bhagavatam, was describing again Jarasandha attacked Mathura with 18 Aksahinis and thousands and millions of soldiers, and Krishna came out with his army, and they were chopping off heads, arms, legs, and there was blood everywhere, and Balaram couldn't control himself. He came out and created a tidal wave, and the dead elephants looked like islands, and the jewelry looked like sand, and the heads were floating like tortoises, and it's like, anybody who sees this will never be bothered by so-and-so, and it was just like all these incredible, activities and benedictions, But Prabhupada, who was completely sober, intelligent guy, was describing all of this like reality, And so then at one point in my mind, I mentioned this, said, this is either the biggest lie you ever read, or else it's the absolute truth. Then my intelligence said to my mind, either it's an absolute lie or the absolute truth. But either case, it's absolute. And I was realizing, the Krishna is self-evident. And all other evidence depends upon him. So the Krishna book is Krishna. And at that point I realized, this is not anything like anything I ever came in contact with before. So it's kind of what I was praying for, sincerely like that and so on. And then finally going this way and that way and trying to understand it. And then I understood it was a temple in San Francisco. So I finally went there and I knocked on the door, Brahmacharya opened it about 2 o'clock. I said, we're closed, come back later. Okay, thank you. All right. So I went out, sat in my car, opened my Krishna book, and Prabhupada said, if one experiences difficulties in progressing in spiritual life, he should not be deterred, but should continue with patience. Okay. I'm sure everybody in this room has had the experience that Prabhupada talks to you and stuff. Okay. So I sat there for 2 hours and went back, and then the devotee received me and gave me some prasadam and sold me a couple books and so on. So I started going to the temple, and of course you meet Prabhupada through his disciples, through people who are following it. Sometimes we're just following it like iron filings follow a magnet. We don't have any realization, but we're just like, what's it called? It's a power attachment or something, But yeah, it was a whole different experience, the temple. I met Vishnu Janan. That was an incredible experience, and so on. And then finally, the Rath Yatra came. I moved in about 2 blocks away from the temple. It was a tough area. And so we're living there. And I came over, and for Rath Yatra, they had, 25,000 flowers or carnations or something. So I sat with maybe 6 more people in the garage, and we're making these flower garlands, right, the carnations, and I had a little groove in my finger the next day, like that. And everybody else went off to see Prabhupada, and I didn't know who he was exactly and stuff. And some of us stayed making garlands. Okay. Then Ratha Yatra. Then, the next day after the Ratha Yatra, everybody was recovering, and Prabhupada was sitting like that, you know. But I was sitting over there, just like, you know, next to him, looking at the deities. And he was lecturing. And I looked at Gaur Nitai, and their whole bodies were conscious. Just like if you drop your wallet and I grab it, and you come back and you're looking at everybody, did anybody see my wallet? I won't look at your eyes. Yeah. Their whole bodies were like that. Their whole bodies were conscious. It was like they wanted to hear Prabhupada's lecture. You know. Other times, you know, different contact indirectly and so on, like that and so on. You know. But the main thing is through service. Prabhupada's saying as soon as we're associating with a person's desires, and how do you associate with a person's desires? By trying to satisfy them. And that's the material world. You know, Krishna is desiring, and we try to satisfy those desires, then we know Krishna. You know Prabhupada, everything else, you know, so on. So it's some of my experiences. Yeah. Anybody else? Yeah.
You were mentioning yesterday about how all the ashrams are a part of spiritual. It's part of spiritual world, right?
How what? How?
All Grihastha ashram, Vanaprastha ashram.
Oh no, part of the Virat Rup,
Yeah.
not part of the spiritual world.
Okay. So the thing is, I want to know: is it required for you to choose any kind of ashram? For example, if somebody does not want to, if you want to earn money, but at the same time doesn't want to get into Grihastha life and serve Krishna, is it okay?
Yeah. It's just like, is it required to choose a body? Yeah, we have some choice, but you're going to have to choose somebody. You know, if you don't choose it, it'll be forced upon you, and maybe because of your past activities, it'll be forced upon you. Human body, horse body, tiger body, male body, female body. So Varna Ashram is a part of the Virat Rup, the universal form, like that, which composes everything, like that. And just like water, earth, fire, air, ether, the demigods, their bodies are a part of this. So that's just the way the world works. And so we're going to end up either by choice or something in some kind of situation. Kirata Hunandra Pulinda Pulkasa Abira Shamba Abira Yavana Kashadayaha. There are many uncivilized species also, but they fit into like different, fundamental situations and so on, And it's like, some of my disciples, they're brahmacharis, whatever, going on, and then they want to get into this grihachari ashram, or this brahmastra ashram, where they are neither brahmacharis nor grihastas, and then they become easy targets for the witch, whap, because you're not protected by your ashram situation. If you're running around, if he goes into a liquor store to buy alcohol, the guy would probably say, fellow, you sure you want to buy this? Even most idiot would kind of figure out, like, maybe this is not something somebody dressed like that should be, Or if some grihasta, right? He's going to some temple function, this and that, and he walks back over, and his wife says, you're talking to some Mataji. He walks back to his wife, and she says, having a lot of fun with her, right? Joking a lot, huh? Oh my God. So husband and wife both. Husband's watching me, wife's watching me. And some is good. Because a lot of times men are such idiots they can't figure out that a woman's after them, right? They don't notice it, but the woman can see this woman's got eyes for my husband. The same way too. Women don't realize when guys are joking with them, and so it's like, okay. So you're protected in that situation. And so that's why there are different ashrams. And if we participate with this, then we're participating with Krishna's system, and we're protected like that and so on. So it's usually good to find, if you're going to be a brahmachari, or be a grihasta, or be a vanaprastha, or be a sannyasi. Right? But don't be a grihachari. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And otherwise, in brahmacharya ashram, okay, there's certain, facility for making money for the temple and everything else, but it shouldn't be in your bank account, right? It should be a temple bank account where you're organizing some program and you're managing, And maybe it's more like, maybe you have to associate with ladies a little bit more, and secretaries and ladies in projects and organizing. And it's a little bit more like, towards grihastha ashram, but it's not grihastha ashram. There's like, in India, for example, you have like sannyas ashrams. In Narayananda ashram, you can be a sannyasi and live for free in these really simple places like that, so on. But the rule is, after sundown, no ladies. As soon as the sun goes down, no ladies can be in it at all like that. During the daytime, they can be coming and taking advice and asking questions or, things like that. So there's certain rules which describe the way things work. And then you follow those, you're happy. You start not following them, you're going to get different kinds of reactions, which are also predicted like that. And so on. Okay? Okay. So I guess kind of is the ultimate question. Yeah.
You're talking about how everyone living in this world has to go through problems.
Yeah.
And at times there are problems that it's almost like a crisis.
Yeah.
And we're talking about people who are not necessarily in association with devotees or who are just starting to associate.
Yeah.
And when such crises come,
Yeah.
sometimes they fully take to Krishna consciousness or they just completely leave. So
Yeah.
what's the qualification? What really brings them or lets them come in or completely gets them away?
One time, Mula Prakriti, Devi Dasi, she asked Prabhupada during one darshan, how can we tell if somebody's fall down was accidental or because of offensive behavior? She said, Prabhupada kind of thought for a while, and he said, if they come back, it was accidental. Like that, So that's it. There's two things going on. Bhaktivedanta Thakur says there's two things going on. One is our karma. The other is our commitment to honesty. This is how he's defining devotional service, how you're committed to the truth. And they're totally independent. You can be a very, very advanced devotee, and you can end up being a cow or a dog or a cat or a bull, right? And but you don't go through it the same way as an ordinary person. You go through it with perspective and stuff. But as long as little attachment, Maya can take you through any body, but she can't make you identify with it. So same way, if somebody is becoming a devotee, there are different reasons, and at some point, it may be because of their karma. Karma is strong. They don't have sufficient pious activities. Shrimvatam swakata Krishna punya shravana kirtanana hridyanti sto badrani vidunoti suvitratam. There's three kinds of pious activities. Pious activities for sense gratification, going to heaven, enjoying ice cream. Pious activities for liberation. And pious activities for advancing in devotional service. So the cowherd boys were only allowed to play with Krishna with intense absorption after accumulating piles of pious activities. So somebody who doesn't have sufficient, transcendental pious activities, when the heat gets on, they may just fall away and stuff. Many examples of this with a seed being planted, right? If the seed's planted in good soil, it grows very well. If it's planted on some rocks, it sprouts and just dies in the sun. The Bible gives exactly the same analogy. So on. And the other thing is, maybe they made the choice. Bharata Maharaj went all the way to this crisis of being attached to a deer, and he then, became attached. And in the text it says it was because of his previous activities, and Prabhupada says in the purport, no way. He was in the platform of bhava. At that point, Maya cannot, trick you. So he made a conscious intention to try and become everybody's dearmost friend, and stand in Krishna's way like that and so on. So two things. Sometimes it's our free will, and sometimes it's just things are tough. And when the crisis is over, they'll come back like that. And they'll get stronger, acquire more activities. Next time the crisis has come, they'll make it through. Okay, so Prabhupada ki jai, Ekadasi Vrata ki jai. Tonight we'll talk about Carl Jung and how to control your mind. Hare Krishna. So Prabhupada ki. Swami Bhagavan ki.